You're using like your 4-track and a couple of very carefully selected pieces to really have a massive impact on your sound. Do you mind kind of giving us all like a bit of an overview, both about that evolution and where you're at the moment?
Oh yeah, definitely. So over the years, as any young music producer would do, early on I thought I needed more, 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 and so I went through and I bought some gear that I thought would help me be a better music producer. Turns out the gear doesn't make me better. But so when my daughter was born, I actually started this process of selling some gear. So I sold my lovely Juno 106 to pay for some birth bills, because having a baby is expensive. And that kind of put me down this path of looking at what I really need. And then thinking about, at that time, I was also, and when it's not pandemic time, I'm also on the road a lot. And so I started thinking, like, to maximize my time and quick and like easiness of getting things done, maybe I should start thinking about it in the box setup. And so I started being like meticulous about what sounds I had in my library and like what plugins I would turn to help craft the divorce chord sound. And I have like I'm really happy with like the collection of plugins and sounds that I'm using. And I love to like support independent creators. So a lot of the sounds, like right off the bat, like the main pad that you talked about that was nice and warbly, like that is just one of my favorite go-to synths. Is actually a very affordable soft synth from Elephant. And it's this this preset that I tweak a lot called Astropad. And it's just this like beautiful pad sound from his analog ANLG like Ableton collection. And I honestly reach for the Astropad like in most of my writing sessions, because it's just got this incredible like warmth to it. And then I'll add a lot of compression and effects after the fact. But
awesome.
Yeah, I think an in the box like setup is nice. And then for me at least, I love gear though. I mean, it looks so beautiful and it's fun to use, but I will have the time one day, and then I'll run it out to like my Roland 404. I mainly use as like an effects box. So on
like
the
an
intro
insert effect kind of thing, or a effect send, or
yeah, sometimes as like an insert, but like I'll just like send a full stem out to it and then bring it back in. So like on the intro of Desolk 2.0, that's just like me taking the final mix, throwing it through the filter, and then when it opens up for those guitar strums, like that's just bouncing it back in, basically the whole track.
Right. Wow.
It's a really fun effects box. And then I've been for the lo-fi project, my Dreamtax project, I've been doing more like chopping like samples on there. Truncating is what they call it, I think. Okay. Samples. It's a painstaking process, but it gives it like a really interesting feel. And then the Slow Songs project was that Tascam 424 is a newer piece of gear that my wife got me for Valentine's Day, which is like the dopest gift ever. Valentine's Day. Yeah. And that was my and I was really influenced by Blank Forms. He's kind of become a friend through Ableton. We got to go to lunch and talk, and I just think his music's so warm and lush. If you guys haven't heard it, Blank Forms is making some amazing tape music, but we talked about it kind of over lunch, and then I was like, okay, I think I'll buy it. And then the Slow Songs EP was my first foray into sending full songs into the Tascam and seeing like what it will do. And it was really incredible seeing that the songs kind of took each song took a new life, basically, because I could hear textures that I didn't even know existed in the track when they were slowed down on tape. So
right. So when you say like putting everything over, you're obviously going to a 4-track. So you're like sending a whole mix over, or are you sending certain elements and putting stuff back in the computer, or what's your process around that?
So with this one, since it was all final bounces and I didn't want to basically recompose each track, I was just sending the master into the tape, only using 2 tracks basically, because
right.
I was panning left and right. But with the new studio setup, I hope to start like sending, and especially one thing I did want to talk about like going forward is being able to do more with less tracks, because my early tracks had so many layers, but I'm starting to learn more about sound and EQ and like where to place things and how to make something sound bigger with less. So eventually I think I'll be able to get to a place where I could bounce out a final song that's broken down into like 4 tracks, basically, where I have all the synths on track 2, all the drums and bass and vocals.
Amazing. Rad. That'd be great.